By far the most common brand of slide or sandal that comes into my office is Oofos. Even people walking in with raging athlete's foot or raging foot pain walk in saying, I don't know how this happened, I bought Oofos. They're supposed to cure my foot pain, or they're supposed to stop my foot pain, or they're supposed to help me recover. And although in some instances that might be true, there are a lot of pitfalls and warnings you need to know about before you just go blindly buying these for foot pain or recovery. Let's get into it. Now, both my wife, who's also a foot doctor, and myself have had extensive experience in these personally. We've both had pairs and worn them until they have worn out. Our experience personally, as well as just kind of looking at these, the material properties of these, as well as our patient's experience, has definitely followed a certain trend. And if you look at some like third-party websites that sell the Oofos and reviews on those, there is a trend that we found. And there are some things that these, like I said, these are fantastic for, and there are a lot of pros and cons to these different foot pains and things that are good for treating, good for preventing, and we'll get to those in the video. But you probably should know what these are actually made of first and how that meshes with their marketing claims. Now, Oofos makes some robust marketing claims about their slides, and all of their claims, all their biggest claims, I should say, the water resistance, the odor resistance, the structural support, the recovery properties of these for your feet are all centered around their proprietary UU foam. And yes, closed cell foams like EVA, like UU foam, like Cushlon, all the cells are closed off from one another, right? That's why they're called closed cell foam. Each cell is closed off from one another. And so it makes it inherently, yes, a little bit more watertight because, right, it's like a security door between the layers of the foam, right? The water can't go in between the cells, right? It also makes it a little bit more structural, right? Because you're not deforming these big bubbles. But the other issue with closed cell foam is that it usually makes it heavier. Whereas in Oofos' case, Oofos sandals are not heavy by any means. They are feather light, which makes them really easy to pack, put in a gym bag, things like that. They are incredibly light. But that's also where these things diverge. Like that's where all the pros and cons of these are going to come from later in the video. These are incredibly low density closed cell foam slides. Now, if you look at these on the microscope, it looks like EVA. Oofos is very careful to say that these are not EVA, they are a proprietary blend. They benchmark everything on these slides against EVA because EVA is kind of like the old school foam, right? Like it's the not technologically advanced foam, the not trendy foam. Like I said, on microscope, it looks like EVA. I'm not sure that they're not going into it, but the problem with Oofos is that this foam, while being incredibly squishy and incredibly comfortable when you first put it on foot, because it is, like I said, is also not very structural. And so when you get a foam like this that is incredibly low density, and that's how you get that cookie dough feeling, but also like a memory foam cookie dough feeling, you've got to sacrifice something in there. What they also claim is that being a closed cell nature, anti-odor as well as water resistance. And although that is true in the different layers of the foam, your foot is only touching one layer of foam, the top layer. And that is usually covered by a coating. And that is another one of the big issues with these that people report, is that these are super slick on the bottom because of the coating. And that, I mean, that's just a kind of inherent thing in some of these slides. Even though they are gridded on the bottom, I found also you can slip a lot. Your foot also slips on the top cover a lot too. And that's just because it is a coating. And there's nothing on there that says it's antimicrobial or anything like that. And typically when you get foot odor or shoe odor, it's from the bacteria, right? The opportunistic bacteria that form from when your body starts to sweat. And so what ends up happening in these is, number one, okay, super low density foam. A top cover that when you sweat in it, breaks it down pretty easily. What ends up happening is this top layer basically just becomes a swamp. And so in terms of walking in them a lot, heating them up a lot, that's where I see the biggest issues with these, is exposing that top layer of ultra low density foam. And so what I've seen happen in these when people use these for extended walking, extended time weight bearing, more active recovery, or just for, you know, like kind of everyday, more casual use, is that the heating of the foot and the blistering of the foot becomes a real issue, because your foot basically, number one, the moisture starts increasing, right? Because there's nowhere for the water to go. It just stays on the top, right? You start to sweat more because the friction gets higher, the heat gets higher, right? And you start blistering around your arch. What I've noticed is that the thong sandals are much worse for that than the straps. So if you're gonna get these, to me, I would only get the strap version of this, right? Because it's just a little bit better for the blistering. And then what I've also seen happening is once you start wearing this top coat away, is because they're ultra low density, the foam starts packing down quicker. And when it starts packing down quicker, remember, these are a lot more narrow underneath of it than they look on top, right? So they start wearing down a little bit abnormally. So the gait becomes abnormal on these. And that's why I said, like, there's no structural anything to these, right? You can just, like, this is, yeah, it's comfortable and everything, it's squishy, but also if you're trying to walk in them, imagine your foot trying to stabilize this. And that's where, like, recovery footwear to me is a lot, there's a big difference in recovery footwear. Are you looking for active recovery or are you looking for passive recovery? Because if you're looking for passive recovery, these are out of this world. If you're looking for active recovery, I wouldn't touch these with a 10-foot pole. And here's what I mean by that. If you bought a house that was built in the 80s, like someone on this channel, that has these really bizarre tile floors that are super unforgiving, and every time you come back from playing tennis or basketball or running or whatever, and your feet are just killing you, and you just need something for cushion, just like you're sitting on the couch, you're getting up and going to the bathroom, you're getting yourself something to drink, and you're just basically just sitting around the house, then these are out of this world, as long as you've dried your feet off first. If you are trying to walk in these, right? Let's say after you play tennis, basketball, or running, whatever, you're like, hey, I'm gonna go, grab my wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, whatever. I'm gonna go around for a walk around the track just to, kind of cool down. Then that's where I see the biggest issue in these, because two issues. Number one, low density foam is going to start wearing down abnormally. So it's going to accentuate your foot's abnormal, and no one has a normal foot, right? No one has a perfect foot. And so it can accentuate those issues. The other thing is because the foam is so low density and it has such little structure here in the heel, what is one of the number one causes of Achilles tendonitis and plantar fasciitis, as well as arch strain? It's micromotion in the heel. It's this motion back and forth. That's why you usually need something more structural back there in the heel to hold your heel still. And so when you're just allowed to do this, what's happening is the muscles in your leg are now having to fire harder and longer to get your foot stable. So not only are you not recovering, you're actually making your legs more tired over time. And that's why I see so many people that put these on that think, I'm gonna go put these on and wear them around Disney or walk a ton of them, end up getting heel pain. I'm like, well, how could I get heel pain and these are so soft? A lot of times the softer stuff is not good. You need something a little more dense and structural. And so if you're looking for something for more active recovery, you want something with a more structural foam. Think something like Crocs light foam, right? Crocs are EVA. Same thing, same thing, but they're closed cell foam like Oofos. But what's the difference? The shape, a little bit wider, more dense foam underneath your foot, so they just have more structure to them. Obviously something with a heel counter, right? Something that actually goes around your heel, right? Something that actually has a counter to it is going to be better, right? Something like maybe like the Under Armour Slip Speed, which you can actually tighten down around your foot and stop the motion, is going to be better. But if you're looking for something that's a slide for recovery, you want something with more structure. Think something even like Nike React X Rejuvenate has a little more structure. Or something like the Xenon Zen Slide, the one I helped design, just has more structure in the heel, wider, helps stop a lot of that micro motion. And so as you can see with this review, as well as a ton of other reviews I do, these have really good applications for certain things. Let's say you're someone that suffers from bursitis right in the heel, or someone that's lost a lot of the fat pad in their foot, a lot of the shock absorbers in their foot. Then these are gonna be really good for everyday use, just to protect the bottom of your foot from all that shock, just from everyday things. But if you're someone that needs these for more active recovery or just for every day, you're gonna want something a little bit more structural. You're gonna wanna offload the foot with maybe something like an orthotic or something with just a more structural foam in there. And so do I think they're bad? No, not at all, right? As long as you keep your foot dry when you're in them. So I would wear sandals, or not wear sandals, I would wear socks with these so that your foot oils and your foot sweat doesn't break down that top cover. Because that's honestly, in the acute stage, that's where I see that most people have issues with these, is that they wear them for one hot, humid day in a row and they're just, they're moving around because this stuff is not super grabby. And so their foot's just back and forth, and they get those acute blisters on their foot. That's the acute stuff. People I see wearing these for weeks on end, the things I start to see are the straining. And so if you do a few simple things, keep your feet dry or keep socks on with these and wear these for more passive recovery, they're gonna be incredibly comfortable. Like I said, as long as you got the sock on and you don't wear down the coating, they're going to be a little bit more water resistant. They're nice and light. They're gonna, you can pack them in a suitcase super easily. But if you're going for more of the active stuff, like I said, that's where these just kind of completely and utterly break down, at least from my experience and from patient experience. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Love to know kind of what you've noticed in these. Like I said, if you go on different sites where you see the reviews, you do see some different things. However, in terms of, like I said, my experience, it's been basically short-term issues with blistering and sweating in them, so not keeping them dry. Mid-term issues in terms of straining in the legs and these kind of causing, more strain versus recovery. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, like I said, in the comments down below. And if you do want to see what I'm talking about with the Nike React X Rejuvenate and kind of how they compare to Crocs and kind of differences between those, make sure you click into this video right here. And if you want to see what I think is one of the best orthotics for recovery, make sure you click into this video right here. I'll see you in the next video.